Well, towing is something you do when you're working on the road, when you're working in a car with a car-mounted device. This is all basically obsolete now. It's no longer done this way, but basically this is how it's done. You have a device on the roof of the car, and you proceed, we'll say, from west to east. We're speaking now of Los Angeles.
Yes, let's take Los Angeles.
Where it's actually happened.
Okay.
And you start off and you get out on the number 10 freeway going to the desert.
I'm getting very excited about going on the number 10 again.
Number 10.
It'll never be the same to me. I used to get worried when I carried my tennis rackets in the car. Now, if I see a tube, I'm going to get very nervous.
That's right.
Something's coming.
You should. But you point the tubes astern of the car. You point them, in the direction that you have come from. That is the west. And if you do it all in the right way, you'll see that there is an accumulation builds up behind you. And this moves with you as you move out to the desert, and it will pile right into the Banning Pass area when you get to there. That's the way it works.
In your book on page 69, you talked about one of the things that you learned in this particular process of watching how this works is that you could actually bring in fog.
Yeah.
Talk about that, too.
Well, that goes back a long way. It goes back into the 80s, actually. I don't do that anymore. But we found out that if you went on Imperial Highway and you start off at the Harbor Freeway and you go directly due west on the Imperial Highway all the way as far as you can, by the time you get down to the waterfront, provided it is not a situation where you have a drought in vogue, but if it's a normal day, you will have immense fog come in over LAX. You practically close the airport. So you have to be very careful about doing that.
That's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, right.
So there's a whole navigation
protocol
to all of this.
Yeah, right. The people who are in charge of these things are not familiar with vital force. This is something that doesn't exist for them. Right. You see, so if you offer them a device that uses vital force to clarify the air, they don't want to look at it because of the problems with their own constitution, that they're not familiar with it and they don't like it.
Correct. I could totally understand that, except that you and I both know that many people will go to a doctor. I don't understand what the doctor knows. I don't know what he or she knows, and I don't understand if they're doing a surgical procedure, what they're doing. Do I as a patient need to know? Frankly, I need to know the essence of it, but I don't need to understand what they do because they're the practitioners. They need to know. Yeah. That's why I'm going to them.
That's the problem, is that they don't know.
But in this particular case, I don't think that the concern has to do with the greater good.
Uh-huh.
And the greater good is starting to get concerned, if they have not already been concerned. And our listeners are probably concerned with what is happening on the earth in terms of climate.
Yeah.
And there are many people that are saying that the way things are going, that even England may be frozen over literally in an ice age within 20 years. Climate change is a big concern to a lot of people.
Well, they'll have to learn about vital force, then they won't have to be worried about it.
You don't think that there is some type of association with the climate? There's some innate association with climate being, quote, from God that immediately says, well, that's the fate of the earth.
God will let you use the vital force all you want. And that's really the key to it right there, is that they will not advance to understanding the existence of the vital force. They will not have it.
Well, let's say that they won't have it, but there are people who will have it. There are people who have been cleaned out by the hurricanes, who have been cleaned out by either volcanoes or earthquakes. There are millions of people that are in drought and don't have access to fresh drinking water. I had the opportunity a year ago to interview Bill Cox, who I know you know very well.
He's a great man.
He is a great man. And the earth and the world needs him very badly, too.
Yeah, they do. But it's not working. See what I mean?
I do see. And, you are both at a later chapter in life. And my concern is that we are very much dependent on rainfall for drinking water. Mm-hmm. And in cases where a society or a culture or a country is not ready, willing, and able to employ and deploy your services, that may be a country that is ready for the services of Bill Cox, who has the ability to access primary water that doesn't come from rainfall. Right. It's like if you access anything that has to do with our sustainability in a different way than what's already been organized and touted, it's dismissed.
That's right. They won't have it.
And the bottom line is that water now is being privatized and has been being privatized for the last 5
That's
years.
That's right. It's the latest high-level racket, is to privatize the world's water.
And so I think that this is very, very critical. I was wondering if you could also speak about something you wrote about called the horizontal dark bar. Now, I know we're getting a little technical with the weather engineering part, but there is a way that you know when the rain that you have just produced is your rain,
yes,
so to speak. Could you talk about what the horizontal dark bar is and describe it for the listening audience, please?
The horizontal dark bar is an accretion of moisture. The reason that it appears dark is that it is moisture, and it is in a in a much drier atmosphere. Therefore, it appears that way.
You said that there's a clear blackish line along the bottom of the clouds that brews up and bases itself on the horizontal dark
That's right.
bar.
That's right. Well, the moisture accretes where the dark bar is, and it spreads upwards through the clouds. That's how it goes.
What does accrete mean for those of us who don't know?
Accrete means, accumulate.
Okay, accumulate.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it turns black?
Well, not jet black, but close to it.
Okay.
Much darker than its surroundings.
Darker than its surroundings.
Yes, that's right.
And heavy cloud comes out of nowhere?
Yeah, right. That's a common thing.
Comes in over the scene.
Yeah.
And temperatures are known to drop?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's happens commonly in gun car work where you're driving in cars.
You said also on page 52 of Loom of the Future that fog will not form if the ether is expanding.
That's right.
It's a phenomenon of contraction and stasis in the ether. That would seem to be very key and critical to airports.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Isn't there a place in your body of work right now, and has been, for the airports to be able to utilize you with regard to the fog that often accompanies a lot of locations where people are flying in and out of?
Well, as a matter of fact, a very famous man once sponsored this, General Curtis LeMay, right after the 1990 smog program in Los Angeles, and he became convinced that these devices worked. And he was going to set up devices of mine at the most heavily fogged base in Air Force Base in the U.S., and unfortunately he died at that time. So it was ready to go then. It would have taken a personality like that to get interest in it.
Well, I think that there would be, at this point, a lot of interest in it. You know, I am of the believer that there's so much very practical applications to your work in the world, even more now at this time in human history than possibly that has come before this time, because there are more people flying, even since 9/11. There are more people that are using airplanes and flying, and the weather is more unstable than we've ever known it to be in many, many places. Can you clear fog as well?
Oh, yes,
You
sure.
can clear smog. We talked about
we clear
that.
fog. We used to clear fog on the ship. We used to do that.
Talk about that.
The Commodore would ask me to intervene when we had fog. And this was when I had equipment aboard the ship that was suitable to do that.
What kind of a ship was that?
This was the Maui. This was the Matson container ship, the Maui.
What were you doing on that ship?
I was a radio officer.
And what does a radio officer do on that ship? Probably doing a radio show.
Not much.
Somebody was letting you prepare your weather engineering.
That's right, exactly.
And who let you do that?
Say, what's
Who empowered you to do that?
Oh, the Commodore authorized.